Hi, welcome back to my 100 Spotify OCs project where I make an original character based on each song from my Spotify Wrapped 2025 playlist. This week's episode is about the song Poor George by James Supercave. It is an 80s synth alt new wave kind of a song, and it's a critique, a social and political critique of systems of power and abuse. I understand that art is a political thing inherently, but I also understand that people who watch art YouTube channels to relax don't want to be confronted with the world of politics every time. So I'll put a timestamp up for when I'm actually drawing, and you can maybe sit this one out if you're not in the mood for that right now, but that is what the song is about, so I would be remiss to not talk about it because that's going to factor heavily into my character design this time. So with that out of the way, Poor George is a story kind of a song. It's about an everyman, but he's not really everyman. He's George. He is a stand-in for people who are born into power, like a Nepo baby or an industry baby. His family takes care of stuff for him. He gets what he wants. He has backup plans, but he doesn't need them. He probably doesn't even know what's in them because he pays other people to make them for him. It comes out that he's a serial abuser of women he works with. It seems he's in the entertainment industry because there's mentions of like the leading lady, women in the dressing room, and it is systematic. And he's done it to a lot of people, implied to be sexual abuse, so not a good guy. He's kind of looking at himself, George is, and inviting you to feel bad for him, that he got caught and that he did these things. You know, if you only understood what it was like to be such a public figure, you know, the burden of being in the public eye, maybe you'd get it, maybe you'd get why he did that. So it mocks that mindset, and the song also points out the way that when we find out that someone has done something bad, almost all the time, the headlines are about the abuser. We make them the center of attention, not the victims. So it's an excellent critique. It's also a really cool song. The electric guitars make a sound like a police siren at some point. It's awesome. You need to listen to it. I'll link it in the description. But for this song, my original design was just a guy like George. That's not very inspired of me, and that's also not a fun person to draw or make or imagine. So instead, you're gonna have to walk with me because I have a more abstract interpretation of the character this week. This is not a perfect feminist representation of a woman or a stand-in for a woman. This is gonna be about the spectacle of it. I think about all the roadkill I see on like a daily basis. If you're driving in my town and you didn't see a dead deer on the side of the road, you weren't paying attention. Like, it's always deer here. And I think about the way that this animal can meet such an immediate and brutal end at the hand of a system that we all accept and that benefits all of us. There are a lot of people who are anti-car, anti-driving. I'm not one of them. I like my car and I like to drive, but you'd be stupid if you couldn't admit that the system we have where people, especially people in rural areas where deer get hit more often, need cars to get around, and then deer need to avoid the cars, but the cars go faster than most land animals, faster than a deer can think to get out of the way. And then we have the guts to blame them for being too stupid to move. I mean, yeah, people get injured and even killed if they hit a deer, but by and large, the victim of this system is the deer. And I also think about how in literature, women are often compared to deer. We're graceful, we're elegant, maybe mysterious, and yet we're also vulnerable. We admire deer as human beings, but we also hunt them. We also don't really care if they get hit by a car. So I think about kind of the public spectacle of a deer that got hit by a car in the road, and it's just there all day for everyone to see until someone from sanitation comes to pick it up, and then you don't think about that individual deer ever again. So for this character, I'm making a roadkill doe. She's back from the dead, maybe a zombie, maybe just necromanced or something. And in my mind, she's on a revenge quest. It's like a Kill Bill situation. She's gonna find the asshole that hit her with his car and she's gonna infect him with a zombie virus. She's supposed to be about the spectacle of abuse and what happens if you're unlucky enough to get caught in the middle of that. But it's also one of those things where, you know, you can ignore 100 dead deer on the side of the road until one of them gets up and starts walking. So here we are with some sketches. I think what I'm gonna do for this character is sketch it on paper and then copy those sketches into the computer and maybe do some loose digital color over them, but keep the pencil and just have it be loose and kind of messy. Because I would imagine if you were zombified roadkill, you would also be kind of loose and messy. here's my deer. Now I have to figure out where it got hit. For maximum grossness, obviously we need an exposed rib cage. I had a Jurassic Park dinosaur toy as a kid that was a T-Rex or something, and it had been in fights, so it had scars on it, and it had just a patch of like exposed rib cage on its side, and I really liked that about it. I said I'm a morbid person, so after some thought I might make it more like the dinosaur toy where you just see the ribs. So the car probably hit it like around here. I think if it's got some torn skin on the shoulder too, maybe the leg is now crooked. It's been hit out of whack. All right, so there's a thought of just a start. If this is where the tire mark is, then it's not like the front of the car hit her here. So I'm gonna change where that is. This is the problem with doing things on vibes, is that you are often wrong. I like this laying on the side of the road. There's gonna be like the edge of the shoulder, kind of the oily grass that's always on the side. The lines. I hate it when a deer has been hit and it's even still a little bit in the lines, so you have to get over to get around it. I don't know which song number we're on anymore, and at this point I'm afraid to ask. I think it's number 10, because I did the Hosier OC for Too Sweet, and I mistakenly thought that one was number 10, but it's not. So here we are. I'm gonna give her kind of these hollow eyes to indicate zombieism. We don't need that. I'll put another thing there, maybe a shambling deer. At the beginning of this episode, I brought up the idea of people paying money for these OCs. It's been a long time since I talked about it. It's covered in the intro video, but my long-term goal with this project is, once I've got enough of them, once I've got all 100, I want to have a charity raffle. So all 100 of them will be available to win in the raffle, and to get a raffle ticket, you just have to donate some amount. I'm thinking like $15 or $20 to a charity. And I'm going to choose a couple different charities that I would like you to donate to. But honestly, at this point, I might even, we'll see how many people are interested, but I might even let people donate to a charity of their choice. And then as long as they can prove to me that they sent a donation in, like they give me a receipt or something, then they're in my raffle. So I'm not going to profit off of these. I'm not interested in that. A lot of people do make OCs for profit. A lot of people charge a lot of money for them. I'm not really interested in that. I think it's cool. I think it would be nice to make that much money, but I don't have much of a following or much of a name as an artist online, so I would honestly be impressed if I can get enough people interested in this project to make a difference for charity. And that's also kind of part of the reason I'd like it to be for charity, is because people don't know me. They might not want to give me money, but if I can make something that will incentivize them to make a difference in the world, then I will. You might not like my work enough to want to fund my subsistence, my continued life, but you might like it enough that it pushes you over the edge to give a couple extra bucks to a charity you've been eyeing. And that really, to me, is preferable. So that's the long-term goal, that's the hope. And this is a zombified deer. Not a ton to say for this process. I just scanned it in and created lines from the pencil, and then I painted under it with the jagged brush in Procreate. I just kind of layered some normal deer colors and some of the greener, grosser colors for a zombie, and here's how it turned out. Stick around next for artist inspiration. This week's artist inspiration is Octobertiger, who I first found as Invader Tiger Star on DeviantArt in 2011, I think. It's been a really long time. Appropriate to this song, which I found through the Warrior Cats fandom, I also found her art through the Warrior Cats fandom. I can safely say that she's the reason I draw. The way she drew cats especially was so appealing to me as someone trying to find their footing, like especially late middle school, early high school, knowing that I had some art talent, but not knowing how to make myself actually good, how to make things that I was proud of. I would look at her art and everything spoke to me in a way that made me feel like that's what I wanted to emulate. It's not that I wanted to copy her, it's that I wanted to look at my art and feel the same way that I felt when I was looking at hers. So even though she hasn't been active on her socials in a really long time, I still look back at her art from time to time. It's just probably the most important artist shout out on this channel, because again, I would not have taken drawing as seriously as I did if I didn't encounter her work and think to myself, that's something I want to work up to. That is my artist shout out for this episode, Octobertiger. And I decided I wanted to focus on her work, so you've just been seeing a slideshow of her images for however long I've been talking, but that's her, and that's it for this video.